I'm the MnDOT project manager for a cross-range study that we're currently working on, and this is our meeting presentation from our open house held on May 10th. A little bit of what we'll be going over here in this meeting. We'll be doing a quick background, go over just our high-level schedule for the study, some of our engagement efforts in the past, our purpose and need for the project, and just some of our alternative evaluations that we have, and then the next steps for the project. Our study team includes MnDOT, Itasca County, and SEH is our design consultant that is facilitating this project. Little brief history. This is just a map of the whole Cross Range corridor from Virginia to Grand Rapids. This is just kind of a history of when any of the expansion projects have happened over the years. And this is showing the remaining segment here that is between Pangilly and Taconite that could be experiencing some improvements here as part of this study. A little more detailed timeline. Is showing what exactly was done over this 100-year period. Probably one of the big things to note on this is the 1989 EIS that was done. Our projects that were done after 1989, we're using this as a framework, and why we're doing this study right now is because this document has just kind of reached the age limit right now, and we need to update the issues. So kind of what that went to is our study outcomes, which is, like I mentioned, updating a list of key issues and priorities on the corridor. We know a lot has changed on the corridor since 1989 between the communities, just how people utilize the corridor and some of the environmental requirements that are required now compared to back in 1989. As part of this, the new environmental process, or just even the EIS process, we go through and do what's called a purpose and need statement. So that is one of the items that we'll get into a little later on in the presentation. That is going to be a draft right now as we're working through there, and then we're going to go through and as part of the study outcomes as well, improve options, a set of improvement options that can be carried forward in the next stages of the environmental regulatory process. And then in the end is just see what get some update on potential costs and the next ask of the legislature, Minnesota legislature, that is. So schedule-wise, we're in what we're calling phase 1 right now of our study, and that is going to be complete here at the end of June 2023. And that kind of goes over those steps that I just mentioned in the previous slide. And then from that, if we're going to be going into phase 2 when we get additional funding on there. And really what phase 1 is just gathering those needs, looking at some high level alternatives, and phase 2 is getting more into the screening down of alternatives, or kind of funneling down to alternatives to help select a preferred alternative, complete environmental documentation for the project, and then start any preliminary design. So we anticipate when, if we were to get funding, that would take roughly about 3 to 5 years to complete on there. And then once that happens, depending on what the actual scope of the alternative that is picked, the final design and construction could take a total of about 3 to 4 years. And like I said, all that's depending on funding and what the preferred alternative ends up being. We have done, as part of the study, some public involvement. So this is just kind of a list of some of the public involvement that we've done for the study. We've done some public events, going back into August with a public open house, or September, with a public open house. We did a pop-up event in August, doing another open house here in May. We have a study advisory committee that's made up of members and key stakeholders that are within the corridor, and we've met with them 3 times here over the last year. Also meeting with the Western Mesaba Mine Planning Board. And then doing independent stakeholder interviews with cities, mining companies, recreational freight companies, the DNR, just to help gather as much information as we can to help guide any decisions that are going to happen along the corridor. Purpose and need. So I mentioned that before, and that is, why is it important? Well, first off, it's required by the Federal Highway Administration, which is for the NEPA process or the environmental process. And really, what this does is establish a reason for the project. So how is this purpose and need determined? Um, so it's developed in close coordination between MnDOT and FHWA. And really, it's based on the transportation needs of the study corridor and any of the additional considerations that are needed throughout the corridor. In this statement, it's a statement of the transportation problem and not any of the potential solutions. So what this project has, or study area has, went through and developed this draft purpose statement from all of the input that we've received to date. Is and I'm just going to read this verbatim. Is the purpose of the US 169 transportation improvements from Taconite to Pengilly is to enhance mobility, improve safety, and support current and future travel demand for all users and modes of transportation of the corridor. And then we'll get into the next slide here, which kind of goes into the needs. And it's almost, when we say purpose and need, it's almost a backwards thing where it's the needs and the purpose, if you kind of think of it in a logical term. But really, what we looked at here and is okay, what are based off of what we're hearing are what some of the needs are, right? So roadway deficiencies, safety, multimodal accommodations, and system continuity are really the needs that we developed through here, and these are the main headers here are based off of FHWA criteria and what they fall under. But for roadway deficiencies, we can talk about hey, when we mentioned structures on here, we know that the bridges at Snowball Lake are substandard for oversized overweight loads going through the corridor. We know that there's some curves that could use improvement. The flooding around the Mud Lake area is another area where we could handle or we could deal with as a need for roadway deficiencies here. Safety, we know there's a few areas that have some higher crash rates currently. There's also some areas that have high risks for safety. So we haven't necessarily seen the crashes to facilitate a safety improvement, but there's a high risk of of uh, of crashes in certain areas. Multimodal accommodation, so that's really talking about, hey, how's the freight moving through the corridor? We know that there's a rail line that moves through the corridor, and how do we interrelate with that? We talk about recreational vehicles, so snowmobiles, ATVs, how do they move through the corridor? Also, walkability, bikeability. So, right now the existing corridor runs um, through some communities here, and how does that how how does that our highway relate to any user being able to walk or bike through the corridor? And then additionally, system continuity is more the higher of okay, how, we have a 4-lane east of Pengilly, a 4-lane west of Taconite. How does this move through the corridor? As part of being a bigger system for a highway. And then some additional considerations that we have to look at as part of the needs are environmental impacts. So we talk about, stormwater, historical cultural resources, protected species. We also have to take into consideration, the cost for construction, any land acquisitions, future maintenance costs, industry impacts to future potential mining, forestry operations, any other development that would be happening, and public and agency input. So be consistent with local and state and regional plans, comprehensive plans that are through the corridor. So that's all of those are accounted for as we work through the NEPA process. So process for selecting preferred alternatives. So we review all the options and filter out ones that are unlikely to meet identified needs. So really, to get through the alternatives, they have to meet the needs that we're going. If we're moving ahead with an alternative that doesn't really meet the needs that we've described in the purpose and need, those are not feasible or reasonable solutions to move forward. As far as the screening criteria, we go through and develop a short list of alternatives to carry into an in-depth evaluation. So really looking at a high level, if you look at a funnel, we put in a high level or into the wide part of the funnel, and then it slowly gets funneled down as some of these options get through the screening. So right now with the screening, it's been the level one's a high level. Level two screening, which would be our phase two of any sort of study out here, would go through and do more of the detailed technical analysis for the remaining options. So going through and looking at wetlands, what the soils are like, impacts to right away, more detailed analysis and cost, construction methods, and just helping narrow down. So we've really looked at as far as a level one screen, if you think about it in the two dimension, and then the level two screen starts to get into the third dimension for evaluating the corridor. So alternatives as far as we've gotten today, as far as a level one screen. So we did three alternatives were developed, and we'll go through these in a little more detail. But the three alternatives are a no build option, a modified 2-lane option, and a 4-lane option. And then there's also some sub options that could be intermixed with any of these options through here, as far as some realignment options. And like I said, we'll go through these as we move through the presentation here. So this level one screening, you'll see this on every slide. We try to put in these transportation needs and feasible and reasonable impacts and risks. And this is just an example of what you're going to see on all the slides. And this is more a high level look at that, what could be meeting the needs and what are some of the impacts and risks. So you can see on the left here, the transportation needs. Gray is the low ability to address the needs. Blue is more the high ability to address the needs. And this is similar like a consumer reports rating. These are just kind of high level looks at 25% increments of, okay, how do we feel that this need is going to really benefit the safety or the roadway deficiencies or not, and a way to look at at all these in a higher level way. And the same with the feasible and reasonable impacts and risks, looking at where we have the high adversary impact and low adverse impact and risk. And the one thing you'll notice too, and this is on all of these, is this question here where there's public support, and that is really going through and showing, we're not assuming that we know what the public's wanting, not wanting, having the feasible risk on there. So that's still a process, is to make sure that the public is involved with this and providing us input as we're moving through. So on all these, you'll look and see this as a question mark, but that's just because it's just a continual thing that we're not just assuming that we know what the impact is on the public. So the first option here, and with every option when we get to this level of project, is we have to look at the no build alternative. And the no build alternative here is showing, like you'd expect, we're not really addressing any of the needs, because this just keeps everything that's the way it is. So there's you can see in the gray here, there's a low ability to address the needs. And then you know, from a risk or impact area, you can see that there's really not or a low impact to the risk or the cost, because we're really not doing anything. And then the timber and mining industry impacts and risks are low, but could be high just depending on how they utilize the corridor here. And then if you look through on the map, and all of these maps as we go through have some different legends here, but all the little dots indicate different things. So these orange dots are private access. The the bluish diamonds here are full access intersections. The half colored are partial access, so they don't maybe go all the way across. And then the little pedestrian guys here are the official pedestrian crossings as we go through the corridor. So the next option here is a modified 2-lane. So this preserves and improves pedestrian recreation access along 169, addresses some of the geometric deficiencies. So we have some of these minor curve modifications that we're showing here, and a lot of these, when we say minor, they're mainly within the existing MnDOT right of way. So they're not substantially changing the curves, but doing some changes to the geometric side of it. We're also showing doing some speed and crossing treatments in Calumet and Marble to facilitate some safe pedestrian crossings. And then potential for some addition of turn lanes, passing lanes, and some access restrictions through here. So you can look through. This helps with some of the roadway deficiencies and safety, some multimodal accommodations, and then it helps a little bit with system continuity as you go through. It also, from a feasible and reasonable ratings for the impacts and risks, there's minimal environmental impacts because there's limited use outside kind of the existing pavement sections that are there. It's cost-effective alternative with limited private property acquisition needed, so it simplifies the funding and the acquisition process. And the snowmobiles and ATV users maintain existing access. Some of the cons, it retains an inconsistent cross section, does not address and express public and industry desire for capacity improvements, may not address added capacity vision in the event of significant future industry expansion. So another option here is a 4-lane, and this 4-lane option would be looking at from the pro side of it, a high keeping the continuity of the cross section from Grand Rapids to Virginia. So it would be upgrading that. It would go through, and speed and crossing treatments would happen in Calumet and Marble, and then improve access for oversized, overweight. It would address most geometric deficiencies, existing safety issues, and improvement operations with the addition of turning lanes, passing lanes, and access restrictions. And some of the so this 4-lane would be on the existing corridor here, so it wouldn't really be leaving what the existing footprint is. If you're looking at this corridor, it'd be widening the footprint, but not expanding on it. There is some, as you look at the needs, does improve roadway deficiencies, safety, system continuity. There is a higher level of risk on here for environmental impacts as we go through. There's also high level of right-of-way impacts, costs, and risks. And there's a lower adverse impact to timber and mining just because of the ability to get the oversized overweight loads through here, and then also not leaving the existing corridor, which could cause some issues with some of the mining or potential mining developments that would come through here. So like I mentioned, we have some sub options here as well. So some of the sub options, and in this case, R1 through R3 could be anything done on either 2-lane or 4-lane alternative. So R1 here is we're calling it the Calumet curve. So straightening up the Calumet curve, as well as R2 here, which is straightening up the curve on the west side of Snowball Lake, which I believe is called Side Road. So reducing the horizontal curve to help improve, visibility at the intersection here at County Road 83. And then R3 here would be flattening out the curve at Snowball Lake. Um, to help with this curve. And we also know that right in this area here is the Mesaba Trail Bridge and the railroad bridge, and this would allow an opportunity to potentially reroute the Mesaba Trail in this area, so they wouldn't have to use a bridge. They could possibly come along on the near Snowball Lake, maybe on the existing corridor, and then tie into the trail over here to the east instead of having the at-grade crossing, or help improve the at-grade crossing that's over there. Additionally, it would allow an opportunity for the railroad to update their bridge that's through here and facilitate a better crossing for them. You can look through here. This does show some of the needs assessment and the feasibility rankings. One thing you know, system continuity is not applicable in this case, just because this could be done under a 2-lane or a 4-lane option. Some moderately realignments, and this would be our R4 and R5 option. So one we're calling a Calumet bypass, and the other a Snowball Lake bypass. And the Calumet bypass would start somewhere over here by Mud Lake, come around the south side of Calumet, and then tie back in over on the east side of this Calumet curve that we're calling it. And if you notice, this is high level, wide lined, wide wide lined graphic. That this isn't saying that necessarily we're going to take out 9th Street that's down here, or anything with that, but this is just showing that, hey, this would have to come down here, and as part of that second tier screening, if we went through, this would have to be evaluated on where this alignment would go. Same thing with an R5 alignment of knowing where the exact impacts are, but this is just an option here that could address some of the needs that we're hearing around the Snowball Lake area, which includes the blowing and drifting snow, the curves, the bridges, the Mesaba Trail, the railroad needs that are all through here. And then here's just a kind of overview of the needs and the feasibility for the project. And the last option we have here is our major realignment. This would be an option to start an option that would be over here by the Twin Lakes, by on the west side of Marble, coming down on the south side of Marble, south of Calumet, and tying back into Pengilly. And just looking at this from a high look, this realignment would really probably only work for a 4-lane option, just because of the fact that because of the impacts of the right of way, the wetlands and whatnot that we have through here, that it would only really rise to the top if this is a 4-lane option through here. And it wouldn't really make sense to do it as a 2-lane just because of the impacts that are out here. And this is just a look at the major realignment comparisons that we have. You can kind of see that depending on what it is, that there's some parts that can meet the needs, and there's just a lot more of the environmental cost and impacts and risks over here that would need to still get filtered through, and that's why this is more of a high level look, because as we get into that second tier screen, we start to get into a little more of the impacts, risks, to help screen this through the process. And as part of the level 2 screen, we have to go through and do a draft evaluation criteria. So this would just be some of the examples that we would have to look at as part of our evaluation criteria. And here's another slide for that. And then also looking into, like I said, the evaluation criteria, but also looking at the additional considerations that we have in the social, economic, environmental considerations that are part of this. So, like I mentioned before, we're having to be consistent with the local, state, and regional plans and programs. Also looking at, some of the other areas that, as far as right away, historical, cultural resources, our environmental justice, um, and mining and industry needs through the corridor. So as far as our next steps, like I said, we're in our phase 1 study right now. That's scheduled to wrap up here at the end of June with these alternatives, refining the alternatives, really finalizing or helping finalize the purpose and need statements and evaluation criteria to be used in phase 2, and then really working towards what that next ask is of the legislature, by the coalition and other stakeholders through the area. And if there's any questions, I can be reached at the following contact information. If I can't be reached, Pippi Mayfield is another contact with the state. And also, if there are questions, you can visit our project website at the link here below, and that should have any updates of the study as we move forward. So, thank you, everyone.